The Legal Podcast Network, from your local legal expert to you.
Hello and welcome to the Legal Podcast Network. I'm your host, Nancy Gregory. Our guest today is family law and personal injury lawyer Jeff Miller with the Miller Law Group. He joins us from Tampa, Florida. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining us, Jeff.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes. Well, you've been practicing law now for 25 years.
Just about, I think. Yep, that's about it.
Yeah. And when it comes to divorce, I think many of our listeners have either had personal experience or been impacted by divorce themselves or know someone. So it can be an incredibly stressful time. What motivated you to get into this area of law?
Yeah, it affects everybody, kids for time sharing, visitation, child support, divorce, everything. It affects everybody's life. And if you don't happen to have children, maybe you are a product of divorce, or maybe your cousin, your sister, your brother, has gone through something. And family law just is a very big, wide area. For me, it was that it affects so many people. And I wanted to make sure they felt they had somebody they could go to and feel comfortable and feel like they had somebody on their side that would listen, that wasn't not aloof, not in it just for the paycheck, but really wanted to see how best to sort it out for them specifically.
What attracted you to this specific area? There must be, is there a connection there for you?
Well, yeah, I came from a single parent household, and I watched my parent go through it, and it happened to be my mom, go through it and have to raise me after the divorce, without support and doing it on a single thing. She just felt like maybe it was the generation, or maybe it was that. It's just that she felt she couldn't afford or approach a lawyer, or that it was out of her reach to pursue support and pursue time sharing and pursue what she needed to do. So I didn't want anyone's mom or dad or anyone to feel like that, if I could help it.
That's a personal calling.
Yeah, I think it has to be, because nobody wants to argue all the time as a lifestyle. It definitely is not something everyone wants.
No, and it's challenging and it can be heavy at times. But as a family law lawyer and dealing with divorce, what are the things that you want your clients to know when they first come to see you?
I want them to know there's light at the end of the tunnel. That sometimes everything can feel so overwhelming when you look at where you need to be and what's happening in your life. And nobody comes to me on their best day. Let's just be honest. They're coming to me already. The shit has hit the fan at that point. So they're coming to me and going, they're overwhelmed. They're stressed out. They can't quite see how this is going to get resolved. And I want them to see that we're going to take small steps and we'll get there, but let's just solve this part and this part and this part, and eventually get to where they can see what they really want. Do you want time sharing? Do you want support? Do you want a divorce? What do you really want out of this divorce? There's an element of anger and emotion in there, and you try to guide them through that.
Finding a lawyer is the first step, but it can be very intimidating, especially if cost is an issue. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. You just look at it going, I can't afford to hire someone to fight for something I don't even have. Or they're afraid that they're going to lose everything if they have to pay legal bills, and and maybe the other side went and got a lawyer already, and now they're asking for them to pay for that lawyer. So now they're going, well, I got to pay for this person's lawyer, now I got to pay for my lawyer. How is this going to work? We don't have the money for this. And I just want them to know that it can be done. It can be affordable. It can be done. And even if the solution is not to litigate everything, maybe the solution is to work it out. Maybe the solution is something else. But you can come to lawyers like myself and some other ones that I know, and they'll guide you. They'll tell you, okay, look, maybe this is the way that you need to go. This is what we can do. And we can take it step by step. It doesn't have to be all at once and overwhelming.
And by step, does that mean like you don't necessarily need a retainer for the entire case?
Right, exactly. Sometimes, yes, you take a retainer because there's going to be a trial, and they just want to retain you and put you through the whole thing and say, okay, look, this way it makes them feel better. But sometimes when money is an issue and finances are an issue, sometimes you say, okay, listen, let's get through this part, or let's help you do this part, or let's help you get through mediation. Let's help you get through this and see if we can do it. So they can do it step by step. It's not, it's not all the time, and it's not something some people want to do, but I recommend that when finances are an issue, or they believe that there is a way to resolve this out, and then the retainer doesn't have to include trial, because maybe that's not where we're going to go.
So regardless of where their financial situation is, you don't want people to not reach out to you.
Oh, absolutely. If they can reach out and explain what their financial situation is, and we can figure out what that will work for them. Even if it's not me, even if it's, I can guide and say, well, here's where you can seek some help, or here's kind of what guides you on this is what you do. But in almost all situations, we can provide some kind of assistance on it.
And since you've started practicing, how has family law changed?
Oh, wow. In the beginning, this is 25 years ago, I believe that it was a little more antagonistic. The attorneys used to file certain things as a course, and it was just go to war immediately, first blood, take them down. And all that did, in my opinion, was you're already set in the battleground, and those costs and those fees are just starting to accumulate right from the start. There's just no opportunity to resolve this matter without all the cannons going all at once. So I think now people are a little more knowledgeable. I believe the proliferation of the internet and some information out there, that people sometimes can see that, hey, this doesn't have to be a financially devastating thing. Maybe we can work something out, or maybe I could talk to a lawyer that is willing to at least give the chance and the opportunity to resolve this in an amicable way. And that's, I think, the biggest change.
Can you give us some examples of some of the cases that were probably a good example of things being amicable?
Yeah, I had a family, and they were going to get divorced, and they had worked their whole lives on a business, on a restaurant. And there was just no way that they were going to get around getting divorced. And they were going to get divorced. And I believe both sides were in just total fear of it. Just they had just resigned themselves to that they were going to have to sell the business, what they worked their whole lives, have a fire sale on it
Mhm.
because the word would have gotten out that, oh, they're getting divorced, they're going to have to sell it, they're not going to get top dollar. The vultures were circling, and that they were going to have to sell the business and split the profit because neither one could buy out, had the money to buy out the other one. And we realized that, and we talked it through, and we reached out, and we worked it out where they both could keep the business could keep going, and they both could keep making money through it. And it took some finesse, it took some time, to cool off and just say, step away from it, let us work on it. And we eventually got it there. And I believe the business is still going. The restaurant's still going.
So they didn't have children in that situation, but their business was their child in a sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The children were grown at this point.
So when you're talking about divorce and children, they tend to be the ones that are, I guess, impacted the most.
Yeah.
And you had said something before when we were speaking. You had said something about everyone deserves. Can you follow through with that?
Yeah. Well, everyone deserves, somebody that can represent them, everybody that can be on their side, everyone deserves some help, and a fair shake at things. And whether the one side has more money or the other side has more money, or one is a little more savvy in this area than the other one, the person should not feel intimidated to go to a lawyer and seek help and to figure out what they can do and what their rights are and how they navigate through this whole thing. And it's, it can be done in a way that no one should feel like they just have to throw up their hands and be at the mercy of whatever judge or attorney or other party decides to throw at them. Everyone deserves a right to have someone on their side.
And when you make things more accessible for your clients, or make family law more accessible, in what ways? Like, how can you give us an idea of how you make that step easier for your clients?
Yeah, when they come in, I talk to them in advance sometimes, and I say, okay, best way to do this is, let's talk about what you want. Let's talk about what the end goal is, where you would be if things just were to work out. What's most important to you? And then we start talking there, and we start talking about how this has come about and where it's going and what our first steps are. Don't worry about the 10th step. Let's worry about the first thing. Let's talk about where we're at right now and how we take each little step, because that's what it is. You can reach out to an attorney, talk to them and say, well, here's where I'm at. I may not know where I have to be or how to get there, but I like to be able to get child support. I'd like to be able to pay for my child's school. I'd like to be able to get a divorce. I'd like to be able to see my child. That's a big thing. A lot of times, one parent or the other gets excluded, and they just throw up their hands because they've hit too many roadblocks, or the other parents made it almost impossible for them to have a relationship, and they just go, it's going to be too expensive, it's just never going to work, I just don't know where to start. So you just tell them, you just start by telling me what's going on in your life, what's happening, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Jeff, I want to thank you for joining us today.
Oh, my pleasure. Absolutely.
What's the best way for listeners to get in contact with you?
I'm pretty simple. We talked about this. I'm not a tech savvy person. They can call my phone number, 727-415-1812. It's Tampa, Florida. Or they can email me, millerlawgroup@yahoo.com. Same email it's been for, God, 25 years, I believe.
25 years. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you again. Our guest today, family law expert Jeff Miller from the Miller Law Group in Tampa, Florida. And thank you for joining us on the Legal Podcast Network. There is a lot more coming up. Until next time, I'm Nancy Gregory.
Thank you for joining your leading legal expert today. Feel free to reach out to them should you have further need of their services. This show is brought to you by DM Media Studios. Your producers today were Director of Pre-Production and Show Producer Christine Emmel, Director of Post-Production Dave Visaya, and your Executive Producer is Dennis Metter. The Legal Podcast Network is a resource provided by the attorneys featured and has a plethora of legal knowledge readily available to help you find a local expert to help you with your unique legal situation.